with Shaker Village, but they haven't done Shaker Village. I wanted to do Shaker Village.
By Halloween?
I lived in Virginia for a number of years, and I was renting a room for these people from the church. There was an old peanut plantation.
The building was built in 17.
I didn't know peanuts got up that far. It was a nice house.
Cool.
There's an extension cord to the floor, down to the second floor. There was no electricity. Well, yeah, each day, so they would board here with the family. So Lucy would be cooking and cleaning and so forth, not just for her own family, but for a half dozen or a dozen mill workers at a given time. As I mentioned, Mount Greylock, which is the highest point in the state. Unfortunately, you can't see it today because the foliage on that tree blocks the view. There are a lot of textile-related artifacts, particularly in this room. 3 reasons for that. 1, Susan's dad ran a cotton mill. 2, Adams, toward the end of Susan's life, around 1900, was the largest cotton manufacturing center in the United States. It covered about 5 city blocks in the downtown. There's a small remnant of them across the street from the visitor center. They amassed a great fortune. They became big philanthropists. They built one of the churches, a library, a hospital, one of the schools. They became wheelers and dealers in the Republican Party and helped secure the election of William McKinley, who used their mansion one summer. In 1901, Adams was the first community in the country to put up a statue in his honor that was created by Augustus Lukeman, who did the sort of pizzazz. So at some point, a woman's group gave her a red shawl that became her trademark. So much so that she was giving a press conference once and hadn't brought her shawl with her, and the press corps wouldn't write down anything she said until she went back to her hotel room and put on the shawl and came back and resumed the press conference. She also had an alligator purse as a fashion accessory, and so there was a 20th century. Postcards were the social media of the day and were used to comment pro or con on a variety of hot topics, such as should women be wearing pants, or should young couples be able to go courting on their bicycles away from the prying eyes of their elders, to the evils of smoking, and conversely, the people trying to stop us are killjoys, to women's suffrage. And these are addressed in humorous terms. Some of the humor falls flat, some of the... This is a rogues gallery in its raw state. There it is. At this point in time, Quakers pretty universally, but that gave Daniel an uneasy conscience because he didn't realize that he was indirectly supporting the institution by creating cotton cloth. Quakers were also down on alcohol, and Daniel did not imbibe himself, but he was a businessman who sold it to his neighbors, which got him in further trouble with his church, until one night a local man got drunk, fell asleep, and froze to death on a local road. And even though Daniel did not sell him the offending bottle, it was a wake-up call, so Daniel forswore anything to do with alcohol and joined the temperance movement and got his family to join it. And that was the first social reform movement that Susan was heavily involved in. That nasty-looking object with all the sharp spikes is not a medieval torture device. It's for carding wool.
Yeah, you clean it.
And the pottery shards there were uncovered during the renovations, so it is possible. Susan's autobiography that her mother could put a dry mop in the brook and it would suck up the water and her father's mill would come grinding to a halt. Probably not true, but it's a good story. The letter here with a timeline of what was going on in both her life and women's rights and America in general between her birth in 1820 and her death in 1906. When I segue over here to temperance as the springboard for her other social reform movements, it's also significant because she met Elizabeth Cady Stanton at a temperance convention, and they were at an early temperance convention in New York around 1850, and the male speakers were droning on, and some of the women in the audience raised their hands to be recognized, and the MC told them in slightly more polite terms to shut up and sit down. It was for men to talk and women to listen.
Yep.
And Susan and her cohort did not take this sitting down, but stormed out and formed their own women's temperance group, which was not the Women's Christian Temperance Union founded by this lady, Carrie Nation, who made her name by walking into bars and breweries with her trusty hatchet and bursting open bottles and kegs of beer and whiskey. And if you were a supporter of this nation, you might want to show your support by wearing a lapel pin in the shape of a hatchet. Abolition was another hot topic during Susan's youth. As I said before, Quakers pretty universally condemned the practice. This area was a hotbed for abolitionism even in Susan's youth. It was the next town over. There's a section called Cheshire Harbor where they harbored fugitive slaves.
The Underground Railroad ran up through here.
But they were not, at least at this stage, from the Deep South, but primarily from New York State, which did not abolish slavery, I was surprised to learn, until 1845, about 50 years after Massachusetts did. And Susan was fortunate to meet a number of the luminaries in the abolition movement, including Sojourner Truth, who was an escaped slave from New York, came to Massachusetts, lived on a commune in Northampton, about an hour from here, where they raised silkworms for the silk industry, and she eventually became one of the lead conductors of the Underground Railroad, and there's a large statue to her in the Florence section of Northampton, and also a very good